The silence in this apartment is the loudest thing I've ever heard. It's funny, isn't it? I live in downtown Chicago, in a high-rise with a view that costs more per month than the mortgage on our old house. I have the body I spent years dreaming about, the clothes I used to pin on Pinterest boards, the freedom I thought I craved. But all I do is sit in this deafening silence and stare at pictures of the life I burned down. He's holding her hand. My ex-husband, Mark. He's holding his wife's hand. Her name is Emily. In the picture, they're at a pumpkin patch, one of those places in the suburbs with hay rides and corn mazes. The kind of place I told him was cheesy and beneath us, back when I thought I was better than everything. Mark is laughing. It's not just a smile for the camera. It's that deep, genuine laugh that crinkles the corners of his eyes. The laugh I used to be able to pull out of him with a stupid joke. He's looking at her, and in his eyes, I see it. It's the look he used to give me. The one that said, "You are my entire world." I haven't seen that look in 3 years. Not since I was the one who told him I didn't want to be his world anymore. And now, he looks right through me like I'm a ghost. Like the 10 years we spent together were just a story I made up in my head. This is the story of how I traded a man who loved me for a reflection in the mirror and ended up with nothing but a perfect, lonely body. 3 years ago, my life was comfortable. That's the word for it. Mark and I lived in a small blue house in Naperville. It had a squeaky front porch step and a backyard that was mostly weeds, but it was ours. Our evenings were predictable. We'd eat dinner on the couch, watching reruns of The Office, sharing a pint of Ben & Jerry's. Mark was an IT project manager. A good, stable job. He wasn't the type to write poetry or plan spontaneous trips to Paris. He was the type to remember I liked my coffee with exactly 1.5 sugars. He was the type to get up in the middle of the night to kill a spider for me because he knew I was terrified. He was solid, like an oak tree, dependable. And I was a high school English teacher. I was tired. I felt frumpy and invisible. I'd gained about 40 pounds since we got married. A slow creep of a pound here, a pound there, until one day I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror. I wore loose cardigans and stretchy pants. I'd stopped trying. Mark never said a word. Not once. He'd wrap his arms around my waist from behind while I was doing dishes and whisper, "You're so beautiful, Jen." I'd swat him away playfully, but inside I'd think, he's just saying that. He has to. I didn't believe him because I didn't believe in myself. The problem wasn't in our home, it was in my head. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was a parent-teacher conference night. I was sitting at my desk, and a mother who was my age came in. She was vibrant, fit, wearing a tailored blazer. She talked about running a 10K that weekend. I just sat there, under the fluorescent lights of the classroom, feeling dull, like a faded photograph. I went home that night and cried. Not loudly, just silent tears in the shower so Mark wouldn't hear. I felt like my life was a book that someone else had written for me, and I was just going through the motions. I confessed all of this to Mark later that week. I told him I felt old and stuck. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He listened. Then he said, "Okay, so let's get you unstuck. What's one thing we can change, right now?" He was a project manager, after all. He saw a problem and looked for a solution. I mumbled something about my weight, my health. His face softened. "Jen, you know I love you exactly as you are. But if you want to feel better, I'm with you 100%. There's a new gym that opened up down the street. We could go together?" It was the "we" that got me. He didn't say, "You should go." He said, "We." The first month at the gym was pure hell. I was the biggest person in every class. convinced every grunt and jiggle of my body was being judged. I'd hide in the back of the spin class, my face beet red, feeling like my lungs were on fire. But Mark was there. He never pushed me too hard. He'd just give me a thumbs up from across the weight room or wait for me by the door with a water bottle. He celebrated every tiny victory. The first time I ran a full mile on the treadmill without stopping, he looked at me like I'd just won the Olympics. Then, about 2 months in, Mark's company started a massive project. It meant long hours, late nights. He felt terrible about it, but he couldn't get out of it. "You should keep going to the gym, though," he said. "You've made so much progress." So I did. I started going alone, and that's when I met Leo. Leo wasn't a member. He was one of the head trainers. He was everything Mark wasn't. He had chiseled arms covered in tattoos, a confident swagger, and a smile that felt like it was designed in a lab to make women weak at the knees. He was the sun, and I, a pale little planet, was suddenly pulled into his orbit. He started giving me tips, correcting my form on the squat rack, his hand lingering on the small of my back just a second too long. He'd compliment me. "Jenna, you're killing it. The transformation is unreal." He made me feel seen, not as Mark's wife, not as Mrs. Davis, the English teacher, but as Jenna, a woman. The weight started melting off. 10 pounds, 20, 30. My old clothes were practically falling off me. I went shopping and bought a pair of jeans 2 sizes smaller than I ever thought I'd wear again. When I wore them for the first time, the look on Mark's face was pure pride. "Wow, babe, you look incredible." But his compliments felt different from Leo's. Mark's felt warm and familiar, like a cozy blanket. Leo's felt like a spark, a jolt of electricity. And I started craving the electricity more than the warmth. I started posting progress pictures on Instagram. The likes and comments flooded in. "You go, girl!" "Inspiration!" "You look amazing!" It was a rush. Each notification was a little hit of dopamine. Have you ever felt that? That sudden surge of validation after feeling invisible for so long? It's intoxicating, isn't it? It's so easy to get addicted to that feeling, to start chasing it. I wonder how many of us have confused that kind of attention with real happiness. My world started to split in two. There was my home life with Mark, which now felt bland and beige. And then there was my gym life, which was vibrant and exciting. Leo invited me to a Fit Fam happy hour. I told Mark I was meeting up with some teacher friends. I walked into that bar and felt like a different person. I was wearing a dress I never would have dared to wear a year ago. Men, not just Leo, but other men, looked at me. They bought me drinks. I felt powerful. Leo was all over me, his arm draped around my chair. He'd lean in close to talk, his breath warm on my ear. "You're the star of the show tonight, you know that?" he murmured. I just drank it all in. When I got home late that night, smelling of perfume and vodka, Mark was asleep on the couch, the TV still on. He'd waited up for me. A wave of guilt washed over me, but I pushed it down. I was having fun. I deserved this. The criticism started subtly. "Mark, are you really wearing that old college sweatshirt again? Can we please watch something other than sci-fi for once?" I started picking fights over nothing, creating distance. I was comparing my real, 10-year relationship to a 6-week flirtation, and somehow, the fantasy was winning. The first big crack appeared over an Instagram post. I had posted a selfie at the gym, and Leo commented, "Looking strong, superstar," with a fire emoji. It was harmless, maybe, but Mark saw it. He didn't yell. That wasn't his style. He just quietly asked later that night, "Hey, who's that Leo guy who comments on your stuff? Seems like you guys are good friends, I snapped. Oh my God, Mark, are you serious? You're checking my comments now? He's my trainer. He's just being encouraging. This is what you wanted, isn't it? For me to get in shape? You can't be jealous now that I'm actually getting attention for it. The words were so cruel and so unfair. He had never been anything but supportive, but I was twisting his support into a cage. He just looked at me, his eyes full of a hurt I'd never seen before, and said, "That's not what this is about, Jen. I just miss you." He walked out of the room, and I stood there, my heart pounding, feeling righteous and angry. I had won the fight. I didn't realize I was losing the war. Mark tried to fix it. He knew we were drifting apart, and he tried to pull us back together. He planned a date night for our anniversary. He made a reservation at Gibson's, that fancy steakhouse downtown we'd gone to for our first anniversary, years ago. I almost canceled. I wanted to go to a new class Leo was teaching, but a tiny part of me, the old me, knew I had to go. I got dressed up. I wore a slinky black dress that cost a fortune. As I was putting on my makeup, Mark came into the bathroom. He was wearing the suit he'd worn to his brother's wedding. He looked so handsome. He just watched me for a moment. "You're beautiful, Jenna," he said, his voice soft. This time it just irritated me. I wanted sparks, fire, drama. His quiet love felt like a tether. The dinner was a disaster. I was on my phone most of the time, smiling at texts from Leo. Mark was trying so hard, asking me about my day, telling me stories from work. I gave one-word answers. The air between us was thick with things unsaid. Finally, over a dessert we weren't eating, he put his fork down and looked me straight in the eye. "Jenna, talk to me. What is going on with us? I feel like I don't even know you anymore. I miss my wife." His voice was pleading. It was an open door, a chance to be honest, to go to therapy, to fix what I was breaking. And I slammed it shut in his face. I took a sip of my wine and gave him a cold, practiced look. "You're right, Mark. You don't know me anymore, because I'm not that person. I've worked my ass off for the last year to change, to become someone better. And you're still just the same. You're comfortable. You're safe." I said the word safe like it was an insult. He just stared at me, his face pale. I kept going. The words poured out of me like poison. "I think I've outgrown this, outgrown us. I deserve excitement. I deserve someone who challenges me, not someone who just wants to watch TV on the couch every night. I deserve more." I'll never forget the look on his face. It wasn't anger. It was erasure. It was like he was watching the woman he loved vanish right before his eyes. He didn't say a word. He just paid the bill, and we drove home in complete, soul-crushing silence. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, I packed a bag. "I think I want a divorce, Mark," I said, unable to even look at him. He just nodded, his back to me, staring out the kitchen window at the backyard where we were supposed to grow old. "Okay, Jenna," he whispered, "if that's what you want." The divorce was fast and brutal, mostly because of me. I was on a high, convinced I was escaping a mediocre life for something extraordinary. I hired a shark of a lawyer who told me to go after everything. I wanted the house sold. I wanted half his 401k. I was cold, clinical, and cruel. Mark didn't fight. His lawyer told mine that he was shocked, that he didn't understand what had happened, but he wouldn't drag it out. He just wanted it to be over. His compliance only made me feel more powerful, more justified. The day the divorce was final, I moved in with Leo. His apartment was exactly like him, stylish on the surface, but lacking any real warmth or substance. It was all glass and chrome and gray furniture. There wasn't a single personal photo anywhere. For the first month, it was a whirlwind. We went to trendy clubs. We took weekend trips to Miami. We posted dozens of photos of our perfect, exciting life. I was living the fantasy, but a fantasy can't keep you warm at night. The cracks started to show. Leo was obsessed with his own reflection, both literally and figuratively. Our conversations were always about his workouts, his diet, his brand. He never asked about my job, my feelings, my day. One week, I came down with a nasty flu. I was feverish, aching, miserable. I asked him if he could pick up some soup for me on his way home from the gym. He showed up 3 hours later, empty-handed. "Oh, sorry, babe, I totally forgot. A couple of the guys and I went out for a bit after our session." He spent the rest of the night in the other room, playing video games, so he wouldn't catch my germs. I lay there in that cold, gray bed, shivering, and all I could think about was the time Mark had the stomach flu. I had babied him for 3 days, bringing him ginger ale and toast, putting cool cloths on his forehead. And when I got it from him a week later, he did the same for me, without a single complaint. Tell me something. Have you ever chased something so hard, convinced it was the prize, only to finally get it and realize it's hollow? It's a uniquely painful kind of heartbreak, isn't it? The heartbreak of your own bad judgment. I'd love to hear in the comments if you've ever had to learn that lesson. It makes you feel so foolish. The end with Leo came about 6 months after I'd moved in. I found texts on his phone. Not from one other woman, but from 3. When I confronted him, he didn't even have the decency to look guilty. He just shrugged. "Jenna, come on. We were just having fun. You just got out of a 10-year marriage. I didn't think you were looking to get serious. I thought we were on the same page." I wasn't on the same page. I wasn't even in the same book. I had blown up my entire life for this fun. I packed my things that night, my hands shaking with a mixture of rage and humiliation. I was homeless. I found this apartment, the one I'm in now. It cost me almost all of my share from the house sale just to put down the deposit and first month's rent. And I was completely, utterly alone. My gym friends had been Leo's friends. They sided with him. My old friends, the teacher friends I'd blown off for a year, were polite but distant. My best friend, Sarah, who had gently tried to warn me about what I was doing, just said, "Oh, Jenna, I'm so sorry." And her voice was full of a sadness that made me feel even worse. That's when the desperation phase began. I started texting Mark. At first, they were simple. "Hey, how are you?" No response. Then they got more pathetic. "I was just thinking about that time we went to Michigan for the weekend. That was fun." Silence. I started calling. He never picked up. I left rambling, tearful voicemails in the middle of the night, begging him to just talk to me, telling him I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. After about a dozen of these, he finally texted me back. One message. "Jenna, I'm sorry you're hurting, but there's no going back for us. I have to ask you to please stop contacting me. I wish you the best. I wish you the best." It was so formal, so final. It broke me, but it didn't stop me. I started checking his social media. His profile was private, but his family and friends weren't. And that's how I found her. Emily, a first-grade teacher with a kind smile and warm eyes. I saw a picture of them on his brother's page. They were at a family BBQ. Mark's arm was around her, and he was looking down at her while she laughed. And his whole family was there, smiling. My family. The people who had called me their daughter for 10 years. They were all looking at Emily with such affection. They had replaced me. The final, humiliating nail in the coffin happened about a year after the divorce. I was at a Whole Foods in the suburbs, a place I never go, but I was in the area for a doctor's appointment, and I saw them, Mark and Emily. They were standing by the apples, debating which kind to get. He picked one up and bopped her on the nose with it. She laughed and swatted his arm. They looked so normal, so happy, so much like we used to be. I literally ducked behind a display of organic pasta sauce, my heart hammering in my chest. I watched as they moved through the store, a shared look here, a private joke there. They were a team. As they headed to the checkout, Emily spotted me. I saw her eyes widen for a second. She leaned over and whispered something to Mark. He tensed. He looked over, and his eyes met mine across the aisle. For 1 second, I saw a flicker of something. Surprise? Pain? I don't know. But it was gone in an instant. It was replaced by a complete blankness, a void. He deliberately turned his back to me, put his hand on Emily's shoulder, and guided her to a different checkout line, one farther away from me. He didn't want to be in the same line as me. He wouldn't even acknowledge my presence. I wasn't an ex-wife he had complicated feelings for. I wasn't even a memory. I was a stranger, a ghost in the grocery store. I left my full cart in the middle of the aisle and ran out to my car, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. That night, I sent him one last email. A novel, really. I poured out every ounce of regret, shame, and sorrow I had. I told him I knew I didn't deserve him, but that I loved him, that I'd always loved him, that I was a fool who had been blinded by vanity. I hit send and felt a strange sense of peace. I had said it all. He responded the next morning, just 2 sentences. Jenna, I forgive you. For your own sake, please get help and find a way to move on with your life. He forgave me, but he didn't want me. He didn't need me. He had moved on, and I am stuck here, in this beautiful apartment, with this body I worked so hard for, the body that I thought was the key to a new and better life. But my body is just a house, and the person living inside is broken. I wish I could tell you that I found myself, that I'm happy now. That would make a much better story. But life isn't a movie. There are no easy endings. I'm in therapy. I'm trying. I'm trying to figure out who I am without a man's validation, either Mark's love or a stranger's fleeting attention. The biggest mistake I ever made wasn't changing my body. It was thinking my body was the most important part of me. I forgot to take care of my heart, and more importantly, I forgot to take care of his. If you're watching this, and you're standing at some kind of crossroads in your own life, maybe thinking the grass is greener somewhere else, I just hope my story makes you pause. I hope it makes you look at what you have, right in front of you. Because the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's not. It's greener where you water it. Thank you for listening to my story.